Hello, I'm Carolyn Ray. For those of you I haven't met, I'm the CEO and the editor of JourneyWoman, and we wanted to have a little get together because it's been a while. I guess the last time we all got together was in December at our holiday social. And so something that we like to do is have what we're calling this is a community call to get together and see how everyone's doing, and also to introduce you to some of our writers, all of our amazing women over 50 writers that are creating content for JourneyWoman. So it's an opportunity for you to meet them, but also for us to hear what kinds of things you're interested in. I have just returned from 2.5 months in Europe, Italy, Malta, Belgium, France, and Sicily in the UK. And we're actually hosting a webinar on the 27th of February about Europe and less traveled places. So I'll put that information in the chat later. So we're going to talk about some of that and also have some experts on to talk about what's happening over in Europe. But today, I thought we'd start by introducing some of our newer writers. And I see some of them are on the call. So I'm going to ask each of them to say hello. And then we have our other writers as well. We have about 16 writers now at JourneyWoman, which is amazing, I think. So I'm going to start with Kathy Buckworth. Kathy, could you say hi and just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Carolyn. I'm Kathy. I'm in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto. I have 4 kids and 3 grandkids. And for JourneyWoman, I'm going to be writing about multi-generational and grandchildren travel. I've written 6 books. I've hosted radio shows, podcasts, including Go to Grandma. My sign. And I do regular television, radio chats and speeches about used to be parenting and now it's grandparenting, but I've always had an element of travel in there, and I've written travel for probably 10 or 15 years. And I'm so excited to see Claudia Leroy on this call as well, too. Claudia and I go way back. We've traveled together and I didn't know she was joining. So that's me. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, we'll go to Claudia then, out in Vancouver.
Hi, thank you so much, Carolyn, and thank you, Kathy. Great to see you here too, and Maureen and a few other folk I recognize. Hi, I'm from Vancouver, Canada, on the West Coast. I am a travel writer and also an author and editor of the family travel anthology, which you can't really see all that well. Sorry, it's called The Gelato a Day, and actually it's 20 true tales of the good, the bad, the not so ugly of the family travel experience. And I'm honored that Carolyn contributed a story to that book, which won a NATCHA award, a North American Travel Journalists Association bronze medal for travel book in 2023. So if you love travel, if you love reading, it's a fantastic collection of travel stories about traveling with baby, traveling with your adult parents, traveling as a family, traveling with siblings. Beautiful stories inside. So yeah, I write all about travel. I also do culinary and lifestyle travel as well. And I'm honored to be a part of the writing team with JourneyWoman. Thank you so much, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you. And speaking of food, Maureen.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Carolyn. Great to be here. It's Maureen Littlejohn. I'm actually in Cartagena right now. I'm here for the month of February and enjoying super hot weather, actually almost too hot, but I'm not complaining. I'm actually generally based in Toronto. I've been a journalist for 30 plus years, and I've been doing travel for probably around 25 of those. My beat is basically history, culture, food and beverage. Definitely, I'm on the board of the World Food Travel Association. And I also love wellness and things that, soft adventure, things that open our eyes, make me feel good, and make my readers feel good. I also edit a magazine called Culture, which is I spent a year in Vietnam, and the magazine it's for the Vietnamese Canadian diaspora, and it's half in Vietnamese, half in English. I do not speak much Vietnamese, hardly any, but I bring this sort of Canadian perspective to the magazine, which they need because they are mostly a Vietnamese team. So that's one of the things I do. I freelance for many others as well, and I'm very excited to be brought on board with JourneyWoman right now. So thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. I'm jealous that you're in Cartagena. It's one of my favorite places. Beautiful. It's great.
It's gorgeous.
And one of the big things that that's happening in travel, in addition to culinary and wellness, is the idea of garden travel and flowers. And so my friend Jen Reynolds, I saw her hop on here a moment ago. And Jen, please introduce yourself and say hi.
Hello. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I just had another meeting about an amazing garden story I'm working on. So that's
Who here loves gardens? Let's see. Show of hands, anyone?
Despite the fact that my fig, okay, this is not a good self-advertisement. I have my fiddle leaf fig here and it needs to be repotted and it's in really bad shape. So I was actually, should have moved it out before, but I do have green thumbs. I have been an environmental journalist for a long time, since I started back at House and Home and Gardening Life, and did a lot of their TV stuff as well too, where we would travel around actually and talk about phenomenal gardens. So I feel like that was a long time ago. That was back in like 1999 that I started doing that with them. So I feel like this has sort of come full circle. Everything I am is about nature, the environment, gardening, and been at the helm of a number of magazines where I've been able to bring that into what I talk about, my everyday narrative. It's what I talk about on my social media. That's how I live my life, just trying to find more green in the world. And I just came back. My latest trip was, well, actually this weekend I was in Prince Edward County, and it was fantastic. A really great 2-hour destination just east of Toronto, where I am. And we were outside. We were tasting the local wines, which is very important, being a nature person, to be able to taste the horticulture that grows in the area. And just sort of admiring the environment. And before that, I was in Utah, which was spectacular. I've always wanted to hike in Zion. It blew my mind. I've never seen, I've traveled many, many places in the world, but I've never seen the majestic scenery and the mountains like that. And to do it with my family was a huge blessing.
That's great. Thank you, Jen. We've definitely got Canada in the house today, wouldn't you say, ladies?
Yeah.
I see a few other Canadians here. I just want to introduce Sandra. Where did you go? Sandra Finney.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm just recovering from a complete shoulder replacement, December the 7th. And I'm looking out my front window at the Tuska River, and I'm just so yearning to be in my canoe and do canoe travel, which has to be on hold for a little bit. Anyway, I've made a major transition in my life. I'm 79, nudging 80 in a few months, and doing very little magazine and newspaper writing these days, but I'm doing a lot of essays. I have a book coming out, and it's a book of essays called Coming Home. Will be 2/3 of it new essays, and then the last third are some of my favorite travel stories, focusing on people and place and culture and traditions, and just honoring places I've been and people I've met. So that's exciting. And then I've also going back to teaching, which I love. So I'll be doing a lot of workshops and on craft of writing, crab essays and braided essays and stuff like that. And I've been working those into some of my travel stories, and it's a lot of fun. Anyway, so it's a bit of a diversion for me, and taking a different road in life, which I love. And the only thing I'm keeping is my commitment to Carolyn to contribute travel stories for JourneyWoman. And I just so love what you're doing. Anyway, so I'm back on track now and finishing up a
Glad to
story
hear
for the
it.
March edition, because I've been off work for a few months anyway. So it's all good. It's all good. Little slow. Can't pedal yet, but maybe next month.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's nice to
Well,
see
glad-
everyone. Happy
Glad to
Valentine's,
see
everyone.
you up in action again. So that's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
We have Christine from Denver.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm calling in from Denver, and I am a part of the editorial community with my Soul of Travel podcast. So my focus in the tourism industry has always been how travel can have a greater impact. And I started in sustainability, and then the last 5 or 6 years have been really focused on the intersection of gender equity and tourism. And my podcast really highlights the voices of women who are creating a positive impact in travel. And I love being able to share that in this space as well. I just had an interview yesterday that I can't wait for you all to hear about a book written about traveling on the Camino, and it's all women over 50. So we had a great conversation. And yeah.
Written by a Canadian, right?
Yeah, yep. She's based in, edited by a woman in Toronto. And yeah, I just love this community. I'm also really passionate about spaces for women to gather and like really hold space for one another. And also my focus is on personal growth and wellness. And I'm going to have to leave early because I actually am taking a course in Ayurveda right now and Reiki. And so it's happening at this same moment, but I really wanted to be here with you all for a little while as well.
Great.
Thank you. And Christine's hosting a webinar for us on March 12th about transformational travel and wellness. So, so you hear more about that soon. Karen in New York.
Yeah, hi. I based in New York City, where it is absolutely gorgeous today. Freezing cold, not by Canadian standards, I'm sure, but it's still cold here. And I had changed my career completely when I retired. I've since then written 2 travel books that are out, and I've been writing for JourneyWoman and for a couple of other publications. And doing a lot of traveling, which I've done my whole life. I'm absolutely passionate about it. And what I like writing about are all the odd, quirky places, and meeting people just randomly and having interesting conversations with them and finding out about places. And so a lot of what I write about is not, you're not going to find me writing about major cities. I'm out in strange places.
Louisiana.
So, that was an interesting trip. It was great, actually.
That's great. Thanks, Karen. And Diana?
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. And let's see. I write for JourneyWoman and have been for, 4 years now? 3 years?
Yeah, you're one of our originals. Yeah.
And my niche is travel for the 80s and up. And I'm 83, nudging 84. And a couple of weeks ago, I went on a catamaran trip around the British Virgin Islands. And it was sort of, in a way, to be an advanced scout for 80-year-olds. Could I do it? Would I like it? Would it be too much? Was this really for younger people? And I had a wonderful time. I could do it. It's not that difficult. I mean, you have to like sailing and all of that. And the interesting thing is, even though it wasn't supposed to be any kind of a wellness retreat, I was just thinking as you were talking that there were 8 women on board. None of them, well, my sister and I knew each other, obviously, and there was one other couple of friends who knew each other, but everyone else was a stranger. And everybody was healing from something, either physically or emotionally. My sister was widowed only a few months ago. One of the other passengers was mourning the loss of her father. Somebody was getting over a divorce. And somebody was getting over a foot surgery. So it was interesting that at the beginning of the week, we were all strangers, and at the end of the week, we were all friends because we had sailed together, we'd gotten wet, we'd swam, we'd played charades, we had helped with breakfast, a group of basically 8 strangers. So it was a wonderful experience, and I just wrote about it for JourneyWoman, and I can't wait to do some more trips and you know, share the word that 80s and up, you can still do it.
You are right, Diana. Wonderful. Dawn Booker.
Hey there. Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn Booker, and I am in North Carolina, in Durham, North Carolina. I have a travel business for women of color over 40, a small group, or over 50, basically. I say over 40, but most of us are over 50 and some are over 70 and beyond. But for women of color, I started Packlight Global as a for me, it was about cultural competence. It was about representation, about kind of understanding that the for the most part, travel narratives and travel writing, as well as travel marketing in the travel industry, there was a gap when it came to a viable market, which is women of color over 40. If we have similar characteristics, then our style of travel is in similar way to everyone else who travels. And so I recently wrote about a trip to Egypt with Packlight. And I had to leave for the trip the day after my dad's funeral. So it was an essay. It took a while to write, but I did write it, and it felt good to write. But I was previously editor-in-chief of a travel journal that was carried through McClatchy. It still is, but I stepped away. Detour. And my background is marketing, journalism, communications, and I write about inclusion in travel beyond race and gender. I write about Indigenous people and culture and telling stories from an Indigenous perspective, as opposed to spending a little bit of time somewhere and then kind of speaking for the whole culture of folks. So I'm interested in Indigenous stories and understanding, and continuing to travel. I want to be like Diana and still traveling from forever. So she's my hero. So again, it's wonderful to be here. I love what Carolyn's doing. I love the opportunity to meet so many people who are committed to these stories and to representation beyond millennial Instagrammers. So looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Dawn. Dawn and Diana and I were on a panel last year together. Kick-ass women over 50 and solo travel, right? That was our panel. So yeah. And I see Sandra Phillips. You're muted there, Sandra.
Okay. Hi there. Okay, is this the first question of who we are?
Yeah, just say hi. And
okay. Hi, I'm from Montreal. Been doing this gig for about 30 years and love it. What I like is I'm a city person, so I'm interested in people and buzz and noise and what's new and action, and a lot different than kind of a lot of the other people. And the other half of me is a shopping expert. So I'm always looking for a deal, a bargain, places to shop and go, and sort of interesting adventure-y things, odd things, quirky things, not the usual. Yesterday, I'm here in Florida now, I'm near Miami, and I went into I'm going to say it wrong again, Windward, I think is the neighborhood north of, it's in Miami, and they took an old district and they totally converted it by painting everything. And it's beautiful, it's quirky, it's fun, had great Cuban food, and that's the kind of thing I look for. I need people, excitement, noise.
That's great. There's two other people I want to introduce on this call, and I think I know most of the rest of you, but I want to say hi to Joyce Perrin, who I see is on the call. And Joyce was on our memoirs call last year that Diana hosted, actually. And Joyce, could you just share a little bit of your story? Because you're an inspiration too. I want to be like you when I'm 86, 80, 89. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you very much, Diane. I mean, Carolyn, and hi, Diane. And oh my goodness, listen, I tell everybody I know about JourneyWoman. Every time I speak to a woman today, I was at a meeting and I said, you've got to look at JourneyWoman. It is the most amazing thing out there for women travelers. And so we had a great conversation, but I just want to say, everybody who's involved in here is so inspiring. I just was thrilled to hear so many comments from people and what you're doing. And you know, yes, I'm 87 and I'm not traveling as much. Darn it all, my legs aren't working quite the way they should. But I tell you, I'm there in spirit, and it's so encouraging. I started to travel when I was 57. I was an empty nester, divorced, and my children had all married. And I always wanted to live and work in a foreign country. The opportunity came, so I took off and I traveled for 23 years, 156 countries and 31 territories. And I just loved traveling. And I did it on my own as a solo traveler when in those days it was very uncommon. And I worked in Saudi Arabia for 3.5 years, which was a big introduction to the Muslim community. I learned a lot. I have a lot of friends in the Muslim community and really enjoyed the experience. Then I worked for the World Health Organization as I traveled around, and I'm a physical freak. We went scuba diving, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and did everything I could. And my gosh, the only thing I can say to people that are younger, do what you want when you physically can, because now I can't do those things. So make sure you fill your memory bank with the things that you wanted to do when you get to my age and physical problems happen. You can look back and say, hey, yeah, I did it. I did what was in my heart. So my blessings to everybody. And I just love hearing about your comments. So please carry on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joyce. We're a small group today, so I want to invite those who haven't spoken to say, if you'd like to say hello and tell us a bit about you. I see Jane, who runs our Facebook group on here. I see Mary Clark, who's on our advisory council. Would either of you like to say hi?
Sure, Carolyn. Hello, everyone from outside of Detroit, Michigan. It's always good to be a part of this group because I am always just in awe of the places you've been and the things that you've seen and all of the writers. You just bring so much to the JourneyWoman community by the adventures that you allow us to go on by reading your articles. I just wanted to say it's good to see everybody on this Valentine's Day. And Carolyn, you have done such a phenomenal job with just making JourneyWoman just shine as bright as Evelyn wanted it to. So thank you for your leadership.
Yeah. Jane, are you there? Or are you just listening? Okay. Ute, you want to say hi? We had community calls, okay, through the whole pandemic every week. So a lot of us were on those calls every single Friday. So, including Ute, do you want to say hello? It's nice to see you.
Yes, hello. Good evening from Berlin, Germany. So I really appreciated all those community calls at a time. And I'm glad to be here again, because now the call today is actually at a time where I can join. It's not the middle of the night of me. So very much appreciated. Thanks a lot for this. And it's good to see so many familiar faces, but also new faces. And it's also always good to be part of the group. So I'm based in Berlin, Germany. I've been traveling all my life. I come to the US quite regularly as well. I work in marketing and communications, and do also some coaching and public speaking on how to live a joyful life, joie de vivre, because this is also the mission and the topic actually I found for myself during and after the pandemic. Thank you.
Good to see you. And Talik. Talik is in our Women's Travel Directory and our Speakers Bureau.
Yes, hi, my name is Talik Nantes, and I'm a travel blogger. I come from the corporate world, where for over 40 years I was an international business development professional, traveled to over 110 countries, opening foreign markets for US products. When that part of my career ended, I switched over to travel blogging and began writing as well. And I also run tours to places that I'm very familiar with, like Cuba. I've got several tours a month going out there. And I also lived and worked in China for on and off for about 8 years. So I'll be starting up our tours to China again. I'm the author of a travel book, and also the author of this book here, Cuban Exile Memories. I don't know if you can see it, but it is stories of what the Cubans went through in the exile community in the early 60s. And I heard about this group from Diana Place, from, you know, the group. And she suggested I stop by, and I did. This is my first time here. And I hope to be more and more involved with the group as time passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to say hello that hasn't talked yet? Yeah, Debbie. Hi.
Hi, Carolyn, is it okay to talk about what we're gonna do?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. So my name is Debbie Dodson, and I started solo traveling a couple years ago and really found a passion in it. My day gig is adjunct professor at 2 universities, but that's virtual and part-time. But I've been volunteering in a senior community for a couple years. I have a cable show on technology. So I decided to cross-sect the two, and as a result, they decided they're going to give me my own show on senior travels. So
Wow.
Carolyn is going to be my guest on my April episode, and we're going to do our Zoom tomorrow. And I'm very excited to be a part of all this. You know, I'm just trying to get my social media stuff going, and I'm not doing it for profit. I'm doing it for joy and love, because I love educating others. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
I apologize for the lateness. My computer has been giving me a 30-minute fit, and I'm wearing something red and drinking a red drink.
You're here, Arlene.
Okay, I'm here. Right. I made it.
So one of the things I was hoping to talk about is, and this is, you know, I'll pose this question to everybody, but of course, some of our writers may want to help us get kicked off. You know, one of the things I try to do is look at less traveled places, and we published an article last year that many of our writers contributed to, about 30 less traveled places in the world. And also, you know, the other concept that goes with that is not just less travel, but when do you go, and can you stay longer? And doing all of those things together, I think, is a more sustainable way to travel. But I'm curious what places are on people's minds, where you're going to soon, if there's any places that you have questions about that that we could talk about here. Does anyone want to get us started in terms of what's on their radar for this year?
Okay.
Sorry, Sandra?
Yes, I'm going to be going in June to Newfoundland and Labrador. And when we talk about places less traveled, for sure, people who come to Canada don't think of that first. However, if you think about it, that was first because that's where the Vikings landed in North America. So if you want to learn about history, if you want to learn about Indigenous culture, if you want to see icebergs, if you want to see whales and absolutely phenomenal scenery, and we're not even talking about how much fun you have with the people who live there, it's a great place to go and get lost in. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've been there before, but we'll be doing way more exploring this time. And so I'm encouraging people to come to this place less traveled. And if any of you have seen the Broadway show Come From Away,
Yes.
that's where they landed in Gander, Newfoundland. So from the fun of the show and the fun of the people who help them, you get an idea of what great people live there.
Nice.
Sandra, I saw the show, but also my sister and brother-in-law who live in New York City have visited Newfoundland. So, and they said they had a wonderful time. They haven't seen the show, but I have. So between the two of us, I guess we've sort of done some of it.
That's great. Debbie, did you have one?
Well, I've got quite a few on my plate. Nothing's like not really well traveled. One is if you've never been to St. Simon's Island, Georgia, I have some very good friends that live there. So that's US, not international. But I was at a travel show and I went to a booth there, and the gentleman has, to Sandra's point, in Manitoba, where you can go on one of these specially constructed vehicles and go out and see polar bears. And so I put that one on my list. So I'm hoping to get there this year.
Great. Diana?
I am scheduled for a trip next October to Crete. Now, I wanted to go back to Greece for some time, and, you know, everybody thinks, oh, Athens and the Parthenon. And the good thing is I've done that. I've done it actually twice, so I don't need to do it again. So I was looking for an island. I looked at Tinos and Paros, and yeah, I have a very close friend who's Greek, and was just exploring. And I'm a big fan of you know, VRBO and Airbnb, and all of a sudden I found this villa in Crete that looks out over the water, and it's close to all sorts of amazing things. So I booked it. I'm not quite sure who else is coming with me yet. I have a tendency to kind of jump in and plan it and then hope that it all comes together. But I think, you know, it's one thing to choose a country that everybody goes to, but then choose a part of it that nobody, well, not nobody, but that less people go to. So that's what I do.
Diana, make sure if you can, I know you said you've done Athens. Well, so have I. Hydra and Poros are both wonderful places to visit. Now they're on the Peloponnese, but if you can get there, Hydra has no cars, so that's kind of fun. You do all the walking, and then Poros, Poros, is just a charming, delightful place where Athenians go to vacation. So I spent about 10 days there and then going out all through the Peloponnese. So that was fun. So you might look into those two places.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy whatever you do.
Joyce?
Thank you. I was just talking about Newfoundland, and I spent quite a bit of time there and went to Fogo Island. So I was there before they did the beautiful new hotel on Fogo Island. But if you have a chance to go there, it's an interesting little community, and you never know who you're going to meet. When I was there, I was out looking at some whales, and we met Jack Cousteau's brother, and he was coming looking for some whales then. So who knows who you're going to meet?
Wonderful. Maureen?
Yeah, I've got a few things coming up, but one that I'm kind of excited about is on April 8th, which is the solar eclipse, I'm going to the Eastern Townships, and there's a big observatory, an astrolabe it's called. And I'm going to be watching the eclipse from there. So Eastern Townships is a really wonderful area in just south of Montreal. I don't know if you guys are into mystery writers, but Louise Penny is from there, and she always talks about Three Pines, which is based on a community there. And it's just a wonderful area with lots of little communities, lots of great food, lots of little thermal spas, and also it's right within this eclipse lineup. So that's for me for April.
That's cool.
Maureen, I think I've been to that same place. It's sort of is it called the Black Sky? I forget what the word is. And you sit in these seats on top of a mountain, and you put on goggles, and they explain everything that's happening in the sky. It was a fascinating, you have to sort of climb a mountain at night and listen to the story in the dark and learn about all the different things that we don't know about up there. And we watch the space shuttle go by and then climb down the mountain. So for anybody that hasn't done that, that's a fun thing to do.
It is. It's Mont Megantic National Park, and it is a dark sky reserve.
Yes.
And they have different things available depending on, the weather. And of course, the eclipse is during the day, so that's a whole different sort of thing. But sometimes they'll bring out one of the giant telescopes. Sometimes you can go in and look through the giant telescopes in this observatory. And there's also there's usually a sort of introductory film that tells you all about the background. So it's a fantastic place. Yeah.
Hi, it's Ursula from Hamilton, and I've met you, Carolyn, for the Bruce Bell walking tour of the St. Lawrence Market.
Yeah, great.
I want to share that I've been an avid traveler, and not only am I an empty nester, but I'm also widowed. So off I went, and this year in June, I'm planning to go on a hiking trip in the Orkney Islands. So if
Nice.
anyone has information on the Orkney Islands, please share it with me.
Great. Claudia, do you?
Yes, I do. I was actually hiking for 7 days in the Orkney Islands in fall of 2022 with a hiking group organized by Wilderness Scotland. And I did write about it. I don't know. I can include the link in the chat. Is that okay, Carolyn?
Yeah,
if I do that, or?
Thank you.
Okay. It's the Orkneys are absolutely outstanding. It's beautiful and windswept, treeless. The food and scotch and gin are all fantastic, as are the people.
In that order, or?
Well, I put gin first. I'm a gin person, but yeah, the food, the hospitality, I absolutely love the Orkneys. I'm actually going back to Scotland in the fall, doing a cycling trip in the Outer Hebrides, because as I was in the Orkneys, everyone was also about, you have to visit the Outer Hebrides. So I'm excited about returning to Scotland for that, but I'll just post the link right now. Enjoy the Orkneys. It's amazing.
Oh, never been there.
Yeah. Sandra, Finney.
I think there's a parallel to your question, Carolyn, about lesser places that we can visit and the kind of the just the lesser known, and there's so much to celebrate all over the world in smaller rural communities. But the opposite of that too, I think, is travelers. We need to consider our role in overpopulating places. And I'm going to give you an example, and it breaks my heart. And maybe I've been there, maybe some of you here have been there. Peggy's Cove in Nova Scotia is probably the most photographed lighthouse on the planet. And it's so sad what's happened to that community. And I think it's, for me, it's not responsible to go to a place that is now overpopulated and is affecting the lives of the people who live there. It's tragic. And there are people who are living there who leave in the summertime because it's just like a zoo. I went there once
Yeah.
about 5 years ago to do a story, and I had to tell the editor that I could not write about Peggy's Cove. It was like ants crawling over a hill, and it was so
Right.
sad. Anyway, I won't belabor that, but we need, I think, to give that some thought. How do we contribute to that overpopulation and destroying of communities? So I think the antidote to that is going to places, lesser places, less known, and celebrating rural areas and off the beaten track and that kind of thing. Anyway, the other thing is to consider different kinds of travel. And one that I'll just put a plug in for is travel by big boat. So if you can imagine the Voyager canoes in the years past in Canada, they had these huge big canoes. Some of them weighed 700, 800, 900 pounds. They still do. And now it's very popular and becoming more popular in Canada to travel, do a brigade with different people. And so if you're interested in that, anybody can contact me. We have one happening in Nova Scotia in the Bredor Lakes in Cape Breton in August for 11 days. And there might be a spot or two available on our boat. We're building our own big boat here in Yarmouth, which is hilarious. And yeah, anyway, that's another story. But there's a Voyager Brigade Society in Canada, and you can join like for $10 or something, and you can find out different brigades that are happening all across Canada. Not all across, in different parts of Canada through the summer. And they welcome people. You don't have to know how to paddle your own canoe. You just get your bum in and somebody will show you how to do it. So it's a different way of travel. And usually the brigades will connect with the Indigenous communities where they're traveling through, and they will have gatherings, and they'll have dancing and music and drumming and learning about culture and their foods. And so it's also an immersion into culture, the Indigenous culture in Canada, as you travel on these brigades. So just wanted to put in a plug for traveling by a Voyager canoe.
Love it. Love it. Love
Yep.
it.
Thank you.
Joyce, did you have your hand up again, or is that from before?
No, this is a new one. This was from
Okay.
this was from the Orkney Islands. Actually, my family are from the Orkney Islands. So I had a wonderful time, and I went to, in case anybody's interested in looking for their heritage, I went to the in Aberdeen. I went to the society that they call, for all your ancestry. And it was amazing. And I met a person there, and we were related. And he was able to tell me I could go back to 1200, where we were connected from the Orkney Islands. So I'm just sharing this in case anybody is interested. England, Scotland, they have such wonderful, wonderful ancestry information, and they're very welcoming and happy to share everything. So if you ever need any contacts there, just stop in at their center and they'll welcome you with open arms.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Diana, you said you've got to head off to teach your class. Can you see
yes.
how busy Diana is?
I teach a class at UNLV, not in travel, and something entirely different. And today is my teach day. So forgive me for leaving early. I wish I could stay longer, and I will be in touch with you all soon.
Okay, bye. That's great. Well, your comment, Sandra, actually was a good segue into, other topics we want to talk about. And, we're coming up to International Women's Day in March, which is always, I like to think every day is International Women's Day at JourneyWoman. But of course, we are working on some features for that, as you would imagine, talking about the role of women in travel. And I'd love to hear from the folks here. What's top of mind for you when you think of, solo travel, women's travel, anything coming to the forefront that you think we need to be talking more about or advocating for?
I'll just say always empowerment, because I feel like the solo travelers that are apprehensive, we need to encourage them. That's why I started doing what I'm doing. It's just, I've enjoyed it so much. And I realize it's not for everybody, So you have to tread lightly with some people, but empowering women to take that leap of faith and go is something that's really close to my heart.
One of the things that I realized when I started solo traveling a number of years ago was, for all the people who are apprehensive, just go ahead and do it. Make your list, plan, and do it. The first time is scary, and then it's a piece of cake. And then be safe, be sensible when you're out there. But I learned that to do it was when I went with a friend when I first retired, and she said, listen, I'm going to Santa Fe. Do you want to come? And I said, sure, sounds great. Why not? And one morning she said, if you're not ready in 15 minutes, I'm leaving you. And that was the turnoff. I mean, I said, okay, from now on, I've got to travel solo because I don't want anyone to tell me things like that. You know, what's 15 minutes? Come on, give me a break. You're on vacation. So just go ahead and do it. That's what I always tell people who are apprehensive.
That's great. Karen?
Yeah, I was going to say kind of the same thing, that I've been teaching a number of classes about travel and been on a zillion podcasts at this point. And one of the things that people are they really are scared to travel alone. And it would be great to put together an article about different approaches to how you start traveling alone. One of the things that I've been telling people is think about what you love to do at home. You love to cook, you like history, you like gardens, you like nature, you like sports. Plan a trip around that. And people go, oh, that's a really interesting idea. And it makes them much more comfortable with the idea of setting out on their own. And I think that between us, we probably all have tips on how do you start that first trip when you're really apprehensive about it, and no, you don't have to go across the globe. Go look, make a circle for 2 hours around where you live. There are going to be places that you've never been to that are probably really interesting. And I think there's a lot of ideas for how you could write an article about that and kind of convince people that it's not as scary as they think it is. Because I've watched people's reactions as I start telling them some of these things, and it's pretty powerful. So
yeah, I'm curious, does this group think that that we've become more fearful generally? Because I think that's part of it, is you read a headline and then you look at what's happening in Ecuador, for example, right now. And you kind of pick one country with the same brush, and then I'm not going there anymore. And
so I think what's interesting are all the list of safe places to travel, and I'm totally in disagreement with them 90% of the time. I've only been robbed in Europe, and I've been all over the world. And so I think some real advice about travel and about being distracted and where the pickpockets are professional as opposed to just being fearful of insurrections and things that rarely happen in the countries that we put on the top of the never travel to list. But I think that the thing that I hear the most is I was robbed, I was pickpocketed, my bag was stolen right in Europe. And the European countries are always at the top of the safest place to travel. And so I wish we could talk about kind of, okay, if we're calling these places safe, then why? I know Rick Steves wrote about being robbed in France. I've been robbed in France 3 times and I lived there. And so,
Dawn, I've been to Paris and Europe and France a dozen times. I've never been robbed, knock on wood, but I haven't. I've been all over Europe, never been robbed. So,
but I think
everybody's experience is different, and you have to go by that person's experience, in my opinion.
That's what, yeah. And my point wasn't about Europe per se. My point was about the fact that we don't necessarily tell people how to stay safe, even in these places that they go to and are told you'll be safe. That's what I'm saying. I'm not comparing parts of the
So
world.
so it kind of creates a false sense of security.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I was leading a group once when I was robbed on a subway. You know, I was by myself. I was with, so I'm saying that as much as I travel, it's always the distraction that is what happens. And so I'm just talking about the fact that we go certain places, we think we're safe, and we don't necessarily have like the mitigate loss conversation. Like,
Mhm.
how do you, if someone steals your bag, how do they not steal your trip or your joy or your happiness? And so how do you get a new passport? How do you get in touch with the embassy? You know, the things that keep, you know, I travel with a debit card and I leave it in my hotel room so that if my credit card is gone, I can still get cash. Just little things that help to mitigate loss and take the response. The woman that I was with who got robbed in Nice, you know, she was so upset and so disappointed in herself and thought the whole trip should, you know, just be over. And I'm like, nope, this is how you fix all of that. And we're going to have a Kir Royale and we're going to sit by the water. I know the drill in Nice. I've been to the police station there 4 times, you know, because you have to have a police report in order to get your passport replaced. These are the things, not the don't go this place, but go this place, because then you go those places with a false sense of this is a safe place. And that's the point that I'm making.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Other ideas, Karen?
I was gonna say that the fear that I'm seeing is not about getting robbed. The fear is I'm gonna be alone. I'm gonna have no one to talk to. I'm gonna not, you know, there's a whole different set of fears that the people are telling me about. And I haven't heard one person say, I'm afraid I'm gonna get robbed. Of course, I also live in New York City, so you know, you get robbed walking out of your apartment. But by the way, the only place
Karen, my
I've ever
sister and brother-in-law have been there for 10 years and they've, you know,
I've never been robbed. I'm
they've
a
never
native
been
New
robbed.
Yorker. I'm a native New
Right.
Yorker. I was born and
So-
raised here. So the only place I've ever been robbed in my entire life was in Japan. So there you go.
And we've discussed this, and I've been to Japan, and my son and brother, my son and his wife lived there for 16 years, and they were never robbed. So,
You
and
just
I
never
spent
know.
a month there, so you know,
Yeah.
and wasn't robbed.
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is that I don't think is the biggest fear. I think that's pretty far down the list of reasons why people are afraid to travel.
Yeah.
COVID being one of them.
Very much agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, this
I'm
is
gonna
why-
get sick, you know, all
Yeah,
of those
so-
things.
We've reoriented some of our content. Now we have a whole section on overcoming fear.
Yeah.
And I did that because I recognize this is a really big barrier to travel. So there's all kinds of stuff in there on how to be, you know, this idea of loneliness. In fact, trying to think if you wrote that article, Karen, about finding joy and being alone. But we have a lot of really great pieces, but I think all of these are really great ideas, and we should refresh and do some more here, because I just see this as, I feel like you're constantly battling this perception versus reality, and it's and people they read a headline, and sometimes the headlines aren't even accurate to the rest of the story, and that just is creating fear. And I do want JourneyWoman to be the antidote to fear, obviously, so that women can get out and reach their potential. So
Carolyn, just an aside, sort of connected to that, is what I've been thinking about recently is maybe people getting to countries that they may not be able to go to again if they don't get there now. You know, countries that before Hong Kong or Ukraine or Russia or a few in Africa, maybe there's some, I don't know, on the edge now, and maybe Hungary's going to have a problem, or Poland or Estonia. Maybe they should be on the top of your bucket list, because you may not be able to get there in the future because of political problems, or you mentioned Ecuador, things like that. Maybe switch it around and go when you can.
yeah. Well, I spent almost a month in Ecuador, and actually put it on our 30 places list because I thought it was such an amazing country, but not Quito. I much prefer it outside the big city. So anyways, we're getting close to the end of the hour. I know we started a little late because I couldn't get my computer to work, but I don't want to keep you all. I know you have busy lives, and I want to thank everybody for coming. And if there are ideas that percolate after this, please let's connect and talk about them. And both the writers, thank you, and the readers, thank you for coming and learning a little bit about JourneyWoman. As you know, it's our 30th anniversary, so we have a lot of exciting things coming up, including our 30th anniversary cruise in November on an expedition ship that we announced last week. And then next week we're gonna have some pretty exciting announcements, so stay tuned. I'm super excited about what's coming and the opportunity to connect women around the world and advocate for women over 50 in travel. And you are all shining examples of that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye,
Talk to you
everybody.
tomorrow,
Nice to meet you
Carolyn.
all.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.